Greetings to my friends and family in America, India, and abroad. I'm back, Sunny Sharma. Um, as I promised, I was going to do a 11-part series on the need to reform electoral laws in this country, in America, reforming the electoral system. But I feel like due to the necessity to form a political party, as I addressed the urgent need to form a political party in this country, I feel after talking about the need to rehabilitate the 1965 Voting Rights Act, I wanted to do a video. I wanted to announce the formation of the party that will focus on prioritizing these electoral laws as well as focus on reforming two other very important um, challenges and problems in America that are both moral, political, and social problems that that also are underlying economic conditions in this country. So basically, I'm today in honor of America's 250th anniversary as the world's first constitutional representative republic. The 13th Amendment and Bastille Day, which was marked by July 14th, which was the storming of the Bastille in France during the French Revolution. I'm announcing the formation of the Citizenship Party on July 13th to the 14th, 2026. Today is July 13th, tomorrow is July 14th. So in honor of these three events, especially the 13th Amendment and Bastille Day, that's why I'm announcing the formation of this party today on July 13th. And in honor of Bastille Day, July 14th, I'm also honoring the creation of this party. So what are the three-part political platforms of this party? So essentially, the first platform of this party is the reformation of our broken electoral system, which will facilitate the other two platforms. As I discussed in a previous podcast before this, the rehabilitation of the original 1965 Voting Rights Act. A second part, which I'll discuss later on case number one. Case number two was the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Case number one is about gerrymandering, the proliferation of independent redistricting committees in the other 42 American states to make the gerrymandering, the drawing of congressional districts, a more just, fair, and equal process in the political voting process. And et cetera, 9 other electoral reforms concerning different laws and requirements that will eventually lead to the rise of a multi-party system in America. That is the goal, creating a multi-party system in this country whereby new parties, as just as historical context, it has always been political new third parties and political parties that have fundamentally transformed America and American history. It has always been the introduction of these parties through decades of mobilizing, organization, and networking that have led to significant changes in public policy in America. And historians can attest to this truth. So electoral reform, what will it do? It will facilitate my other two parts of the platform, but it will also lead to greater civic and political engagement so as to transform the economic and political conditions of America. And one of my platforms is about political conditions, though it is about economics, it is fundamentally about the politics of this country. And the other part of my platform is fundamentally about the economics of this country. So the second part of the platform, which is about the politics of prison, is the leading the movement to end mass incarceration. So this goes back to Michelle Alexander's book, The New Jim Crow, which talks about mass incarceration in the age of colorblindness. So the vast majority of low-level drug offenders should never be in prison. Most people in prison are there for low-level drug offenses. And in many cases, this is due to the underlying economic conditions in these poor communities that contributes to the school-to-prison pipeline. So we have to reform the system so low-level drug offenders never end up in the prison system, and so that the prison system becomes so that justice is secured in the jury system, and that people are not indicted for charges that leave them in prison when they should be rehabilitated rather than punished. There should be, as Michelle Alexander talks, there should be a politics of compassion, care, and moral action rather than one of the politics of respectability that many past leaders, especially some Black conservative leaders, talked about. So in the comments/description below is a link to my final senior undergraduate paper on how mass incarceration has led to a new has led to a new type of caste system in America, and this is my examination of Chapter 5 of the New Jim Crow. So number 3, the last part of the platform is a part of the economics of the system. As I said, electoral reform will lead to political engagement to transform the economic conditions of America. And the economic condition that needs to be transformed in America is the economics of the unhoused crisis, leading the movement to end homelessness in this country. So, based upon previous readings and research, among religion, the 18th century Enlightenment ideals, and the populist social movements of the 19th century throughout the world in places like Russia, China, America, South America, Africa, and in major countries all around the world, there must be a central focus on what I like to call the exaltation of poverty for the sake of justice. So exaltation is kind of a word that is a vocabulary and lexicon and rhetoric used by past luminaries in previous centuries. But exaltation is really elevating the idea of poverty for the sake of justice. This has always been the central core message of all religious doctrine, but it has also been rearticulated in different movements throughout history. So poverty has to be exalted. The idea of poverty, not exalted the myths of poverty, but exalting the idea that we must create a society where no person has to struggle economically. So fundamentally, what does this mean? Homelessness must end if we are to achieve the beloved community. So Dr. King, whatever you may say about his public policy or leadership, he was an excellent philosopher. And one of his philosophies was the idea of the beloved community. And what the beloved community was about, it was about ending economic exploitation through soft power negotiation. So an end to violence and soft power negotiation in order to create an end to homelessness. So just a little bit about the ideas of this party. The goal of the Citizenship Party is to interrogate the principle underlying the first words in the Constitution, we the people. Specifically, we seek that those once considered second-class citizens in this country should be given a second chance at the American dream. This is highlighted a lot in Michelle Alexander's books and in some of the people who are her icons, such as Dr. Bell Hooks and Dr. Angela Davis, who Dr. Angela Davis talked about in one of her books the need to abolish prisons and to free political prisoners. So all American citizens are not just entitled to the rights, privileges, and opportunities of citizenship, but must also uphold the responsibility of citizenship to reforming society through the creation of a working class coalition that prioritizes economic justice for the poor. So essentially, there must be economic justice for the poor. This idea of justice must be exalted in our era. And we the people, the aspirational ideals of the Constitution, beginning with the phrase, we the people, must come to encompass all Americans in the ongoing project of belonging, inclusivity, and acceptance. So every era of American history has been defined in simplified terminology by certain democratic and egalitarian aspirations. If you look at the era of abolition, it has been defined by racial democracy. If you look at the 1880s to 1940s, it was a fight for social democracy and in some sense economic liberty. And if you look at the civil rights era, it was defined by a fight for participatory democracy and an idea, and which really interrogated the idea of who we the people are. I feel that these projects must extend into the modern era. We must continue to define who we the people are, and we must achieve economic justice for all people. And doing so will require interrogating who really belongs in this country. Which includes immigrants, it includes those incarcerated, and it includes the homeless. These people should be granted the right to participate in our political process. They should be granted the right to vote, to those who have been rehabilitated, because the people who have been targeted the most, who have not just targeted, but who have been victimized by the system the most, should have the opportunity to reform the system in line with popular representation and popular franchisement. So essentially, this creation of the Citizenship Party, which is the idea for creating the Citizenship Party was fundamentally because we need to start building the infrastructure for a third party movement. Right now, this is just an idea which I have formed. Many other past political leaders and political icons have expressed needs to develop parties. Last year, Elon Musk said he wanted to create the America Party. Andrew Yang, the businessman, also entrepreneur, said he wanted to create the Forward Party. So many people are creating political parties in this country. But I feel that fundamentally what must be prioritized in the creation of a political party must be the reformation of the electoral laws in order to reform the two most important aspects of our society, through the reformation of the electoral laws, we will increase political engagement, which will help us in the process of creating a social movement to abolish and reform the two most egregious parts of a country, which is the wealthiest country on earth, where democracy has never been greater, but economic inequality has never been so vast. And so to resolve this immense income inequality because of the growth in billionaires in this country, we must abolish homelessness and we must abolish the mass incarceration system. Because many of the people involved in the system understand more than any American what the importance of history and politics in this country. Many of these people, some of them are criminals, but many of them have been accused of crimes which are due to low-level drug offenses or are due to the conditions of economic hardship that have led them into conditions of want and fear. As President FDR said, we must create a society where there must be freedom from want and freedom from fear. And FDR also created the Economic Bill of Rights, which fundamentally said there must be economic justice in this country. We must meet the basic needs of all people in our society. So, so I want to make clear that electoral reform isn't just about voting. It will fundamentally transform the economic conditions of this country. So just to outline, in the comment section below, I'm placing links to my blog, podcast, and YouTube channel. Number one, I post a link on the examination of the New Jim Crow, Chapter 5 of Michelle Alexander's book. It was my final paper for a class on intellectual Black history, one of my most favorite classes from my undergraduate time at Oglethorpe University. Number two, I put in a link to one of my podcasts, 10 Years Too Late. We must build a political party which must reform our broken electoral system. And number three, I put a link to my YouTube channel. All of these I'll put in the comments in my YouTube channel and in the description to my podcast. So if there's anything else that needs to be said, the Citizenship Party will interrogate what citizenship means in this country. President Obama talks about this a lot, but it's something which has always been on the minds of people, whether it's in immigration, because immigrants have been targeted in this country by law enforcement, or it has to do with homelessness or mass incarceration. Citizenship is not just about rights, but it's about fundamental responsibilities, and our fundamental responsibility in this era of history is to form a society where no person must struggle economically. So I thank you for listening to my podcast, and I'll be back with more videos on the 11 parts of electoral reform that need to be changed in order to increase political engagement and finally put an end to homelessness and mass incarceration in this country. Thank you.